Hey there! Today I wanted to make a video letting you know how the first week of the March of the Mammoths readathon went for me. I thought making these weekly progress videos could be a good opportunity for anyone who's participating in the readathon to come and check in with each other. After all, I think going through this march of reading some really long books will be a lot easier if we're going through it together and kind of checking in with each other and sharing how we are enjoying our books and how we're feeling about the whole process. So I've had a good reading week overall. I've had a good time starting each of my 3 books, and it's been an experience trying to orient myself into each of these giant books. They're all very different from each other, and yet at the same time they're all set in the 1800s. So there are some similarities or common topics that are coming up in some of the books. So there are these connections that I didn't really expect to see when I chose these books. For example, in the Bronte biography that I'm reading, Charlotte Bronte really admired the Duke of Wellington, and she wrote a lot about him or characters inspired by him in her juvenilia. So it was kind of funny then when I was reading Les Miserables a few days later, and of course there is a long passage of this book dedicated to unpacking the Battle of Waterloo, of course, which the Duke of Wellington plays a very large role, and Victor Hugo is like very critical of the Duke of Wellington, and he's saying that he's not really that great of a general, and he's not really the reason why the British won the war. So he was a lot more critical about the Duke of Wellington than the young Charlotte Bronte, who just really admired him. So it was kind of funny seeing that historical figure come up in both of these books. So I'm liking those connections that are happening. The main thing that I'm kind of struggling with for this readathon so far is that I'm only reading 3 books, and for me, my comfort zone as a reader, I like to be reading about like 7 to 10 books at a time, which sounds excessive, and I'm sure it is for a lot of people, but I really enjoy having variety and having choice. So I like being able to pick up a book depending on how I'm feeling or like my mood that night. So to only have 3 books to work with, I'm finding is like a little bit stifling, and it's weird that there's like this routine, so I kind of know every night how my reading night is going to go. I thought I'd talk a bit about what my reading routine has been looking like every night so far this week. So when I am home in the evenings and have time to read, I start off by tackling my nonfiction pick, which is The Brownies by Juliet Barker. This is the driest out of all the books that I'm reading so far. Even though I am enjoying it, I'm really only able to read about 25 pages per day. That's kind of my quota that I need to do to get through this book, and I have not been feeling like I need or want to read more than that every night. It is pretty slow going. This is a very thorough and in-depth biography of the whole Bronte family, and in the beginning part of the book, that means that we're spending a lot of time with Patrick Bronte, so like the father of all of the children, and he's not really someone that I'm super invested in learning a lot about, so right now I'm not really appreciating all the attention to detail, but I think that this will pick up as I continue throughout the book and as the children start to grow up. So I am liking this one so far, though I am not totally loving it. However, there are a few great moments in here where I get really engaged with the story. My favorite moment so far has been a bog burst in the small town where the family is living. Some kind of bog just like erupted and just like sent peat and mud everywhere in the town and like poisoned the fish in the river, and it was all intense, and the Bronte father thought like the apocalypse was starting. So I thought that scene was hilarious, and I was on YouTube then the rest of the night trying to like find footage of bog bursts. I just didn't really know that that was a thing that was happening. So I loved that scene, but everything else hasn't really lived up to the excitement of that. But I am hoping that this will pick up as the children are now starting to grow up. Then after I finish my 25 pages of the Brownies, I get to move on to Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. This is my giant mammoth read of the month. I am now about 330 pages into this, which seems like a lot, and apparently there's still like 1,000 pages left to go, which I think is hilarious because like I feel like these first 300 pages really could have been like a full, complete novel in themselves. Like I could have been happy if the story ended there and thought I'd really gone through a great reading experience. But no, apparently I've just started. So I'm really intrigued to see how Hugo is going to continue the momentum throughout this really long novel, but I have been enjoying it so far. I've been trying to read about 40 pages of this a night. Some nights that is just not possible. I've been finding some days I just fly through the 40 pages. If you're at a part of the book where there's just a lot of plot and action and dialogue, then it's an easy read. But if you're in one of the more denser and digressive sections, then those 40 pages can be a real slog. There was one night where I think it took me about an hour to get through 10 pages, since those 10 pages were just so specific about details from life in Paris at that time that there were just so many pages of endnotes to work my way through. And then I am also trying to be diligent and keep notes for myself as well for things that I think are important. So just sometimes getting through 10 pages can be a real challenge. So it's kind of a book that has like a lot of stops and starts. So there are some great moments where the plot is really building up and it's fun and I'm really loving the reading experience. And then those digressive moments, it really does just grind to a halt. So that's a bit challenging for the reader to get used to, like the jerkiness of the story. So I am kind of having some issues with Hugo for sure. Like at some moments I'm really loving this book for sure, and I think he has a lot of brilliant ideas, but then also like he frustrates me a lot. So I'm curious to see how this book is going to work out overall, because I have kind of mixed feelings about some things, but I will say that I'm totally enjoying the experience and I'm very glad that I'm reading this book, and I think it was a great pick. So like even though I have my frustrations, I think that it's still totally worth the experience. Although the last 50 pages that I just read about the Battle of Waterloo, which are not like super relevant to the plot and everything that's happening, were definitely trying on my patience. So I've definitely had my ups and downs reading this book, but I'm still very excited to see what it's building towards. And now that I am off for my week of vacation for March break, I'm really hoping that I can use this time to just make a huge dent into the last 1,000 pages that I have remaining of this book. Not sure that I can finish the whole thing this week, but I will definitely be trying my best. And lastly, on my routine, if I can make it through 40 pages of Les Mis, then right before going to bed, I have been trying to get through some of The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton, but I have not been very successful in making much of a dent into this book at all. I'm about 80 pages into this one, and honestly most of that I read last night in the bath. Since this is actually the lightest book that I'm reading this month, this is the only one that I actually can feel confident about bringing into the bathtub with me without like actually destroying myself or the book. Unfortunately with this book I have been falling asleep most nights after only having read 2 or 5 pages of this book. I just can't seem to get started and get going with this story, and I don't think that that's Eleanor Catton's fault at all. I'm usually just very tired mentally after reading Les Mis. That book is kind of taking a lot out of me, so I just don't really have a lot to get through this book as well. And I have been finding that the sentence structure can be kind of long and convoluted, so it's not just like a mindless read where you can kind of go on autopilot. You do also have to be paying close attention in this book. There is a lot of mystery and intrigue, so you don't want to miss any important details in this one. So I've just been finding that I can only read a few pages at a day, but again, hoping that now that I'm on vacation, I can actually make some time to get started into this book so that I can really feel like the ball is rolling. So that's how my nights have been going, reading these 3 really long Mammoth books. The other weird thing that I've noticed this week is that I've been developing lower back pain, which is not usually something that I struggle with at all. So I'm wondering if, because I'm only reading these like super long big books, if I'm like somehow twisting my body in like a weird position to hold these books comfortably, that's like causing me back pain. I don't really know, that's just like my theory. But let me know if you are also suffering any kind of physical discomfort after only reading some really long books. I'd love to hear from you in the comments how your week has been going so far, especially if you are participating in this readathon. How are the books that you picked? Are you feeling good about your picks? Are you feeling good about continuing on with this readathon? I'd love to know what you're thinking. The last thing that I wanted to mention is that I'm thinking about trying to do a 24-hour readathon at some point this week. Since it is March break for me, I figure if I try to read as much as I possibly can in 24 hours, at least I'll have a few other days to recover from that. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that. I've never done a 24-hour readathon before, but I think they seem like they could be fun. So let me know if you think that that would be a good idea, if you'd like to see some kind of vlog for me if I do attempt that. I haven't picked a day or anything, but I just wanted to put the idea out there that something that I'm thinking about doing, and if it's something that you want to do as well, then I say, like, let's go for it and try to pick a day where we can make some serious progress on finishing these Mammoth books. So that's all I've got for today. Thanks for checking in, and I hope that you continue to have an awesome reading month. See you later.